Thank you for joining us on our latest episode of Talking Security with Caliber Security Partners. We're excited to just kind of get together today and talk to you a little bit about our origin. And something that sometimes people ask us is how, as a family, did we all end up, well, not all of us, but a lot of us end up in security, right? I mean, there's, my wife and I, and your mom, this is my son, Jackson, and we have 4 kids, and between us, 4 out of the 6 of us are in security.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, it is. And so I'm Tab Pierce. I'm the founder and the CEO of Caliber Security Partners.
And I'm Jackson Pierce, president of Caliber Security Partners.
Yeah, and there's no surprise that we have the same last name. And it didn't work out weird. There wasn't anything there like that. But, I get that question from people all the time, and this is kind of just an introduction, like who is Caliber? What's the origin? How did y'all end up in security? And all of that. And so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah. It's funny if you think about, because I get this question a lot because we work, especially with Mom, Catherine.
Yeah.
Some people call her.
I call her Catherine. You call her
Mom. Babe sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
But, because we work closely with her sometimes when it comes to like the recruiting stuff and people ask, what's the relationship? So I got to explain it a lot. And, people either think it's cool that we're all in it or they're like, how'd that happen?
Yeah. And it's what's interesting, too, is that just like any group of people in any family, we get really different personalities, right? Like I'm probably the most outgoing out of everybody. And
you're being humble.
I'm being go what?
You're definitely the most outgoing one.
I'm definitely the most outgoing one. And you're probably on the lower spectrum of outgoing?
Yeah, no, I'm not well, I can be when I want to, but generally I'm not going to be putting myself out there all the time.
Yeah. And so it's interesting though that the history of how we got into this, and it was never like we sat out and went like, how can we become a family of cybersecurity people? I mean, that was never.
Some people start family bands. We decided to go a different route.
Yeah, none of us go out. Yeah, you can play instruments.
That's true. We could.
You're musical. Preston's musical.
We could do a family band,
and that's it.
Yeah.
You guys like a 2-piece band. I could sing, but then that gets really ugly right after that. But yeah, so. How did we get started?
Well, I think we should ask, how did you get started?
How did I get started?
You would be the person who started this all.
So, yeah, this is all my fault.
It is. I blame you.
Or whatever. And so I started out, like back in the late 90s, I was doing product sales, whatever you want to call it, IT sales. And one of the two of the products we had, that we started to, as a company, and a lot of organizations were doing, was gravitating towards firewalls and VPNs and that. And so I started becoming inside the company, focusing on the firewall sales, and I would do a lot of that. And so that migrated over to me taking leaving there and taking a job. It's really funny too because we don't ever talk about this, but I took a job with a company that did digital signatures, and that was like my next move into security. And the irony now is there was a competitor of ours that did digital signatures too. That's now a client of ours, and pretty big, but we'll just leave it at that, right? And it's just interesting that how life kind of takes you, where it's like, I hated those guys because they were, I was a sales guy. I was taught like you don't like your competitors, and now they're like this great, client. Anyway, but I did that. I made that move. Then I made the move into application security and network security, and that on the business side of it, always on the business side of it. And then, slowly migrated and had done that. I think I had done that 2 or 3 times, something like that. And then the last time the company was sold, and I was like, man, am I really going to go back out there and do this again? Am I really going to go out and get another job doing the same exact thing that I've done, repeated, rinse and repeat? Or am I going to start my own company? And the funny thing is you start a company and you have this grand idea of what you want it to be. And then all of a sudden, 13 years later, for whatever we are, 13 or 14 years later, I'm like, man, that thing doesn't look anything like my vision of it. And
all right.
it's like takes on its own life. And then you learn things like, when people are like, I don't know why the company does the things that they do, and you sit back, you're like, man, I don't freaking have a clue why we're doing it either. It's like the company morphs into this living, breathing organism.
Yeah, it becomes sort of an entity, and you hear about that. Companies are entities, and they really are. I mean, you can create something, but either through something that you do or things that other people do, the influences, so it becomes its own thing. So
yeah. And, it's interesting that you bring that up, because one of the things that I learned personally, and it was through the how do you politely say when we were having troubles years and years and years ago, the days of suckage. I'm not really sure how. I mean, everything just kind of sucked, right?
Yeah.
And how I had to learn that I wasn't the company. So it was like I felt like I was bipolar, man. I mean, like we'd get something good happen. I'd be like, I feel so great. I'm freaking awesome. Then something bad would happen. I'd be like, oh, I suck. And I was like, man, I can't ride that wave.
Yeah.
Our wave sucks to ride. But to get back to this all, how did everybody get into this, right? And I don't remember like chicken and the egg thing. I know Mom was the last to join.
Yeah.
And technically, at one time or another, all six have had their fingers in the pot.
Yeah, that's true.
We just booted two of them out. We kicked two of them off the
Off
island.
the island, yeah.
Yeah. They're still family members. We still let them be family members, but that's about it.
That's right. No,
We cut it off after.
thinking through that, you're right. Yeah, all six of us have been on board the boat at one point in time. But I mean, for me, I came on in 2014. I was still in college, studying accounting, and I enjoyed accounting, finance, and stuff like that, and sort of decided that I didn't really want to go into public accounting. Like, as much as I love my experience working for a CPA firm, it was just, I wanted to have more impact on, with the work that I'm doing. So, you presented the opportunity for me to come work for Caliber in 2014, almost 10 years ago, and I'm still here.
It's been a long time.
I'm a prisoner. Help.
Yeah. It's like the Hotel California. You can check out anytime you want, man. You just can't leave. What's interesting though is how you ended up being the president, because we never had.
That was not in the plan.
We never set out to go like, you're gonna, someday, son, this will all be yours, and you're like, I think if you would have known that, you would have ran.
Man, maybe.
You wouldn't have done it. But what happened was, and I wrote a book and covered this, and people early on would say, don't necessarily talk about it because you don't want all your probably your competitors, but your clients to know just the way things were. But it was bad there for a while, right? I mean, financially,
It wasn't bad for our clients.
no,
but
it wasn't bad for our clients at all. It was bad for us. It
Yeah.
was bad for a company. I mean, we had a significant amount of debt for the size of the company we were at. And you were the accountant. We went through this turmoil, lost some people, and just had a core group. But what happened was you kind of like we kind of divvied it up, and I was like, I got to go out and sell. I got to go out and get more revenue. I got to go out and generate, enough money to pay off the debt and keep everybody paid and all of that. And that became like this really tight need that we had. And then, and then you focused on the management of the company and kind of the growth and the direction of it. And you became really good at it. And along the way, I was like, hey, you should probably be the director of something or other and focus on that. And then, you became the VP. And then when we were out of debt, things were good. Now, I'm just going to say things are great. We're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Right? We're doing really well. But what happened was we came out of that and we looked at it and we were like, okay, what do we do now? It's been like 2.5 years. Do you go back and do your thing and I take that over? And it didn't make any sense. And then it made sense that I kept going, in the direction that I was going and focusing on growth. and you know, vision and that, and you focused on, you know, the like the day-to-day aspect of it.
Yeah, it's worked pretty well. I mean,
It's okay. I mean, if I had to do it over, I would have chose somebody better.
yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
I'm just messing with you, man.
I would have too.
I'm just, I'm just messing with you.
Yeah.
No, Jackson's great, but that's how he got into it. Along the way, he has a brother who, prodigal son. I tried to get him to come to work for us, and he went to work for a competitor. It's okay, I'm just messing with calling him. Preston went to work for Coal Fire, and is, at least in my opinion, doing great over there.
Yeah.
Right, but he's early on. How he got his foot in the door was, back in the early days, Caliber was just like, we were bootstrapped and we were trying to get business any way we could. And so one of the things that we did, we had a couple of clients that wanted us to do recruiting, and we weren't recruiters at all, but we needed money. Right, we like money. They had money. They needed
one of those. We could do these things.
We could do these things, and we did it. And what happened was that Preston got really good at recruiting, and then we had picked up business and we started going down the road, and I was like, I'm done. I don't want to do recruiting anymore. I'll never want to do recruiting again. Recruiting served a purpose, and that was it fed the family, gave us money, and kept the company going until we were like fully engulfed, involved. That sounds best. Fully involved in the services that we really wanted to do. But what happened was I went to him and I was like, we're done. And he's like, wait, what do you mean we're done? I'm like, we're done. And I'm not doing it anymore. And he goes, I actually made a lot of money. He didn't. I made a lot of money on it. But he was a young kid. He made a small amount, but it seemed like a lot.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, when you're a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember my little paychecks from Domino's feeling like more than I make now. I didn't have any bills, so like if you're a kid, like a few $100 here, $1,000. My goodness, you're rolling.
Oh
money.
yeah, we'd make $20,000. I'd be like, here's your $1,000, and he'd be like, yeah, and I'd be like, yeah. Anyway, but so he was like, I want to do this. I want to pick it up and do it on my own. And he was a young guy, and so he was looking at what could he call the company, and he wanted me to be involved in it, and me being kind of flippant and stupid and funny and whatever else. He's like, I need a name for the company, and his name is Preston Pierce, mine's Tab Pierce, and I went, and you knew that, but they don't.
Yeah.
And I went, why don't you call it 3P, 3Ps, Preston Pierce, and then P, 3P and T. That's where 3P and T came from. And I was just being funny. Why don't you call it 3P and T? And he goes, okay. So he called it that. And then later on he comes back and he's like, I think I'm going to keep 3P and T. And I'm like, no, man, don't do that. That's a stupid name. I'm like, it was a joke. And he goes, no, I think it's good. We're going to keep it. To this day. And so what happened is he got married, decided he didn't want to do that anymore. And I was like, now it's actually a good company. I want to buy it. So I bought it off of him, but I couldn't do anything because I'm fully involved with Caliber. And your mom came in and said, I want to, you know the story, right?
I know. Of course, they don't know the story.
They don't know the story. But she came in and she's like, I want to help you. I want to help you with that. And honestly, I was being a little condescending, right? And I was like, why don't you tell me what that means? Why don't you take a couple of weeks, tell me what help me means, and we'll talk. And I wasn't being condescending like, oh, the little lady wants to. Not like that. I was just being condescending like, I don't have time for this. I don't want to deal with this. And, but what was interesting is she came back and she's like, I don't think I want to help you. I want to do this on my own. And she's like, and I want you to give me 100% ownership of the company. And I'm like, oh, no. And then I start paying attention. I'm like, no, you don't get 100%. I own 25%. I bought the other 75%, and now you want the whole thing? And so then I start negotiating. So basically, I brokered a free deal to give her 75%, but I don't do anything with it. But she does, and that's how the whole thing.
You guys are married anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I know. But it's like I still, I got to put up a fight, right? Got to do the good fight. But that's how we all kind of came into this, and so now, 2023. the two of us, Caliber Security Partners. Preston is over at Coalfire, and Mom/Catherine at 3P&T Security Recruiting, and that's how we all got into this. And security's been. I mean, I don't think any of us set out like any point in our life and went like, it'd be cool. Security could mean a lot to us, but it's been something that we've all taken part of.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we're all, we're in security, but none of us are really like, the hands-on technical folk when it comes to, we just, have been in the industry, working, either with Caliber or whatever. It's just interesting to us. And, there's some, you could say, shared knowledge between all of us when it comes to security that, has proven to be valuable, proven to, allow for us to be able to create something when, really we're facilitating something.
Yeah, and when I started Caliber, it was there were several other companies that had started in the industry at about that, give or take a couple of years, right? It started about that time. That I was associated with, and to my knowledge, I was the only one that started a company that was not the hands-on. I wasn't a security engineer. I wasn't a compliance policy guy. I wasn't any of that. What I brought was just the business. I probably am one of the very first business, like pure business focused security people where I my hands weren't in it, but they were on it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's that early on, it still does, but early on that really paid dividends, because where we tend to do our best is that relationship, that connection, that pulling all the right pieces together, that trust, and I know I'm sounding like a commercial now.
No, but that's how business works.
Yeah, and it's it's people come to us because not because you and I are like they're that we're the ones that are going to do the work, but it's that we're going to be able to manage and guide people and to do really good work.
Yeah,
and that's it's interesting because out of 13, but this will be our 13th year.
This is year 13.
This is year 13. I was saying 14. I'm like making it. It just seems like
after 10, it doesn't matter.
It seems like it's 20. It seems like it's 20. No, but it's our year 13, and it's I don't even remember a handful of like projects that have gone south.
Which happens at all.
Which happens at all of them, right? But I remember one of them. I was like, the client. I was like, man, it was a partner actually, and I was like, you just suck. I just remember going, this isn't us. It's them. I mean, obviously, when people tighten things up and they do certain things, you can do better. But I was like, this isn't us. One time, I was like, this is us, right? Mm-hmm. And those things happen, but for the most part, our goal is always to make it right, and we can't always make it right.
No,
but
we can do our best.
But we can do our best. So that's kind of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting though. I mean, certainly having those business connections and being able to facilitate business is important for any business, regardless of industry. And so it's nice. It's been nice for us to have that in-house, because I mean, you have other companies where you have the people with the technical experience but have a hard time running a business. Mm-hmm. And so I mean, it's challenging for us in some ways because we have to pull in people to help us get business done, and when it comes to the work that we do.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's either going to be this or the other. It's going to be hard for everybody to have everything. Yeah. But
and fortunately, we've been doing this long enough that and I know I've been doing it a long time, that I may not know how to do it, but I know the resources, right? Yeah. But dude, this is fun. I've had a great time just kind of talking about the history and where we came from. And for us, if anybody ever comes and says like, how did this come through? We just go like, go to YouTube and look it up, or go to the podcast and look it up. And we could just stop talking about it, right?
Just point them to a video.
Yeah. But thanks for coming in. Thanks for being here. And
Yeah.
thanks for taking part.
For sure. Yeah, it's been good.
It's been a lot of fun.